Hey everybody, Michael here, aka Rev, and we're here with
Mopar Monster.
And our special guest today is
Bill Krejci.
Alright. So this is the second episode of Cleveland Monster Club podcast. Our guest today is William G. Krejci, who is he's an author and investigative historian, born in Cleveland, raised in Avon Lake. Aside from multiple books titles for his credit, he's also the owner, operator, and host of Strange and Spooky Cleveland Tours. With an interest in local history, he spends much of his time investigating the origins of ghostly legends and urban lore. And for 6 years was the resident historian of Cleveland's famed Franklin Castle. 2022, he served on the board of the Monroe Street Cemetery Foundation on Cleveland's west side. He's also the author of various books, including Buried Beneath Cleveland, Lost Cemeteries of Cuyahoga County, The History of Haunted Put-in-Bay, Ghosts and Legends of Northern Ohio, and various others. He's also the author of Jack Sullivan Mysteries and has been a guest speaker at many historical societies, libraries, bookstores, public venues, and civic groups. So we'd like to thank you once again for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for the invitation. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So I know when we used to do the video chats, we had you on that one time, and it was pretty great. You know, we were just like off the seat of our pants stuff,
yeah.
But you're a really busy guy. I can't see how you have any kind of time to sleep, breathe.
Yeah, that's I got friends telling me that I'm like spreading myself too thin, or I'm biting off like way more than I should be able to chew. But yeah, 2 jobs, running a ghost walk company, which is like right now it's closed for the winter. You know, so it's just especially today too cold to go.
Oh, yeah,
people don't want to go walking around outside for 2 hours. You know, hearing ghost stories. Well, okay, all right, maybe some. Okay,
I was gonna say I'd give it a shot.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been out in a cemetery and this stuff. It doesn't
because we're recording this in March. It's 30 degrees outside. I wake up, there's about 2 inches of snow on everything. And I'm like, damn it, that wasn't supposed to happen.
A little winter walk in a cemetery. Everyone's like, this is great.
Yeah,
been there, done that.
Which we did. We actually had a school out at Monroe Cemetery about a week ago, and there were 8th graders there. They were like, and these guys are just walking around Ohio City, and I'm walking them for about 45 minutes through Monroe Street Cemetery, sharing some of the stories about our earliest settlers, prominent people. We have a veteran of the Revolutionary War. We've got an abolitionist named Jim Tomey. I know, it's funny. Yeah, the guy's name was James Tomey. Yeah.
That's funny.
But then there's also, I share with them the story of the grave robbing that happened in 1851. It was a really weird, led to a riot in downtown. And these poor kids are just like, are we almost done? Are we almost done? And they're still walking. I think the next stop was West Side Market. They were going to try and stop by the castle, but they were just asking way too much for a group of kids, I guess. So, keeping busy. Things are about to get busier. So, I got the 2 jobs that deliver Amazon a few days a week, and just started out at Hale Farm and Village. So, as an educator, I love that. That is a great job. So,
now, what's going on with Hale Farm? What's this?
No, well, I started last year. They got schools that come in and doing guiding kids around, with their teachers and sharing experiences, talking about early communities. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful experience. A great educational opportunity for these students. But I get to dress up and period attire, and when we get into the season, I got some ideas, things I want to pitch to show the. Idea, that's something that's later on. Ideas, getting ahead of myself on that one, but it's great. I work with some wonderful people out there. It's fantastic. So I'm enjoying this.
Great, great. Like you said, you maybe elaborate on some of the like the Put-in-Bay tours.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you had mentioned one of the books that I had written was Haunted Put-in-Bay. A few years ago, a friend approached me about doing a historic village walk around Put-in-Bay, and I suggested, well, maybe we could also add a ghost walk. People were after me about that, and had plenty of ghost stories, and they're all within, the sites of them were all within walking distance in the village. Well, not all of them, but a good number.
Most of them within the main square.
Right there, right there. I mean, we could do the whole tour in about an hour and 20 minutes. So we tacked that on, and it seemed a lot more popular than the Village Walk, so we eventually, the following year, we scratched the Village Walk and just did the Ghost Walk, and we added a game that mostly I wrote. Then I parted ways with my friend a couple years ago. We had a falling out about something, and it just kind of came to an abrupt stop. I was going to continue it. I didn't have a chance to last year. There was no way I was going to be able to because I was life in transition. Originally I'd been living at the castle. I was no longer working at the monument. I was at this point looking to start my own company here in Cleveland. I did that, so I was keen on that. But now I think I might be able to adjust my schedule where at least a couple times a month I'll be able to go up and resume the Ghost Walk at Put in Bay. Unfortunately, one of my stops has since been demolished.
Yeah, TJ's Smokehouse.
Yeah, the old TJ Smokehouse used to be the Crescent, the oldest building on Delaware Avenue, right there in the village. Someone bought it, had big plans of turning it into this, whatever, and I tore it down. And then they said, "Well, you can't build that because it's too close to a park." What do you had in mind? So, one
if
of
there's any ghosts, are just like
whatever.
What are we
the
gonna
most
hunt now?
one of the most historic buildings on the square there. Dates to the early 1870s, or dated to the early 1870s. Still had the original bar in it. It's a gravel lot now. It's gone. So
gotcha.
And it's fenced in too.
Yeah,
it's a fenced-in gravel lot. So you couldn't even go explore if you wanted to.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, just seeing that empty space there is just so many fond memories back when it was the Crescent. West Side Steve used to play outside on the weekends, and we go up and see him, and everything was great. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
So yeah.
What you said now? Of course, part of your history and experiences. What was it like? I'm sure you've probably heard this a gazillion times. What's it like? What was it like living in Franklin Castle?
It was great. It was, the best way to describe it. It was a dream come true. I'd always wanted to live there, and when I was invited to take up residency by the owners, it was like it was unbelievable. I was beside myself. It was like, yes, I was, and I got to stay there through the off season because during the summers I was working at Put in Bay, so I'd stay there. But from about mid-October till close to May, around then, I'd stay at the castle. It was wonderful. It felt like home. At the end of the season, up for the summer, I'd come back, and everything that I brought with me fit in my car. And I kept stuff there at the castle, so the furniture, obviously, I'm not taking that. That all stayed. So I just bring my clothes, my books, and whatnot with, and if I'd walk in the door and it felt like I was coming home. That was great. I'd plop down on the couch, maybe turn on the TV, and just be like, just kind of melt into the place a bit. Yeah. When I'd be out with friends, at the end of the night, I'd come back, and it was like walking into home. It was the first place I felt like home in a long time.
Nice.
So that would be about but it was it also attracted some weirdos, of course. You get,
of course.
I had
you live there?
People that came up to the fence, and it was great because I got to answer questions about the house, the real history of the house. I started researching it back in 1992, co-authored the book Haunted Franklin Castle with John Myers, and he and I met each other around 2005 is when we started working on it together. So we had the real history of the house and the families that live there, and that was one of the reasons the owners asked me to move in. Was they said it would make sense to have somebody who's a walking encyclopedia on the history of the house.
Oh yeah,
sharing the real story of the house with these visitors. It's great to think about the legends, but to separate legend from fact is something that working for the National Park Service for a number of years as a historic interpreter, that's where I was really able to hone my skill of doing that. I owe that to the Park Service. Being able to discern one from the other and finding the root of even the origin of the story. Like the story about where it came from. There was a mass execution of Nazi spies in a room upstairs, where that came from. That came from a newspaper article from the 60s where Mr. Romano, who with his wife and his family had just purchased a house, he was quoted in the paper saying that there was a bar upstairs and he was pulling a lot of buckshot out of the bar. Said they were having some wild parties up there, apparently. that turned into Nazi execution in a room on the 3rd floor, walls riddled with bullets. So that's where that came
big
from.
Big difference between buckshot and bullets.
So yeah, finding the origin of the story, and I really do. I owe a lot of that to the Park Service, because that really gave me the opportunity to hone my skill in doing that. In this case, though, it was in relation to the Battle of Lake Erie. That was what I studied up there, because it was Perry's victory and international peace. Perry's monument, really. Yeah. So, and it was just a great place. So being at the castle and being able to share that true history with people that just came up to the gate and had questions. That's why I was really there. If we had visitors that came over to view the house, same thing. I would walk them around and show them and share. And I mean, I knew whose room was whose. It all made sense. The way it all came down, where walls used to be, what this would have been, what the ceiling molding was in every room. Because I've seen photos.
Well, that and that structure had changed so much throughout the years, because they changed the blueprints here and there when Hermanos bought it, and back when it was the German American Club and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it went through a lot of internal changes.
There were fireplaces that were sealed up.
Right.
Yeah, there were walls that were knocked down. There were, for a time, there were some dummy walls that were put up that only went up about 8 or 9 feet. In some of the rooms, they had like 15, 60-foot ceilings. And when Michelle Heimberger purchased it in '99, she was knocking down a lot of those fake walls. I did get to talk to her when writing the book. She was very very helpful with a lot of that too. People, they try to come onto the property and things like that, scale the fence. Had somebody once climb the front of the house, I guess. I wasn't there for that. They
didn't try to do like Ouija board stuff in front of the house.
Yeah, there have been weird things that have been placed in front of the house. I won't get into that, but yeah. So it does draw weirdos. It is a beautiful house. It does have a colorful history. A lot of it is legend, but even having the legends attached to it is something else. I tell people, hey, if you really want the story, buy the book, really, because I could sit here and I can spend 54,000 words explaining the whole story of the castle. It's easier if you just buy the book and read it. Or get it from the library.
It's a good read. It's not that long. It's 150 some pages.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worth it for $20 or $30, whether you
it's
buy
about 20. Yeah,
it depends on whether you buy the paperback or the hardback.
Or the hardback, yeah.
But it's a great read. I mean, all of them are really your Ghosts and Legends, Buried Beneath Cleveland, Haunted Put-in Bay.
And if it's not a book that you can see yourself like holding on to for any like I really want to keep this book, something you're going to refer back to regularly, get a library card. Go to the library. They've got them at the library. Support your local library.
I mean, honestly, I think you can get them online now. Some. Amazon does the Fire.
You just give me the pages. I could just hit the one. I have one right here down the street. 82. It's great.
Yeah,
I've been finding some paranormal stuff in there.
Yeah. Books, I also tell support also your if you're going to buy it. It's easy. It's convenient if you want it quick. You can, and you want to go online, you can go to like Amazon, or you can go directly to the History Press and you can order from them. Or you could support your local bookstore, or even like Books A Million is right over here.
Yeah.
My sister actually works there, so
nice.
So
we'll put your link up.
Books A Million, and I do signings over there too occasionally.
Speaking of which, so when exactly are you going to be starting your strange and spooky tours of downtown? I know you got 4 of them, 4 different ones scheduled for this year instead of just the 2.
That's right.
So when are we going to start that?
So June. I'm looking at a June start time. I want to make sure that everything is in place and ready to go. So last year, I'm getting a little dry. I'm gonna grab. Please don't mind me, and I'll try not to bump your thing there.
Go for it.
It's a little too early for me to be drinking, so I can get a 0 today. I bought a bunch of these for St. Patrick's Day because I had to play 2 shows, and the last one ended at midnight, so I had to last all day. And I'm hoping this doesn't fizz all over the place.
Don't worry about it.
Okay,
roll it.
And go real nice and.
We don't have much of a script, people. All right, this is on the fly. We want everybody to be comfortable and just casual. No,
you get to watch me.
Or listen to him.
This is how Bill sips his beer.
Well, he's trying to keep it off the carpet.
Success. All right. There we go. Do this real quick and just post poured into a glass, but I'm gonna drink it right out. I can't. It's fine that way too. So the tours last year was our inaugural season, or ours, like there's multiple people. I'm the only person that does it. So I'm sole proprietor, owner, and only employee. Started last year, inaugural season for Strange and Spooky Cleveland Tours with the Downtown Cleveland Ghost Walk on Saturday nights. It started at 8, ran till about 10, so that's a 2-hour walking tour of downtown. And on Friday nights, with the Ghosts of Old Pearl Street.
That's a fun one because we get to stop and have a few beers.
That's right. It's not officially a pub crawl. It's set up like one, but it's not billed as one. But it is because we do go into some establishments that serve liquor, and it runs at 8. It starts at 8 o'clock and runs till about 11.
And you get thirsty from doing all that walking.
And we're going to spend a little bit of time inside of some of these places. So the ones that do serve alcohol, so you have to be 21 or over to go on that. No pets are allowed on, no dogs on that one. So we do spend about a half an hour inside of some of those places. It's a chance for our guests on the tour to explore a little bit inside of places, like we were stopping at. We started off over at Forest City Brewing over on Columbus and Freeman. Mm-hmm. We stopped over at Great Lakes Brewing Company, so they were able to explore a little bit there. And then at the end, and then we'd stop over at Bookhouse farther north. So while we were there, people, if they wanted to have a refreshment, glass of water, a beer if they wish, you know, they don't have to buy anything. At the end of it, before we move on, I'll share some of the stories, a little bit of the history. So you get the history of every spot we go to. You get the history, and you also get the ghost story. Sometimes you get the lore. If there's a legend attached to it, you'll get that as well. And then share the real story. Or, and sometimes, and this is a really fun part, sometimes in sharing the real story, what was previously unknown, maybe sometimes the reason for the haunting is revealed in that. So I did the Ghosts of Old Pearl Street last year on Friday nights. Saturday nights, did the Downtown Cleveland Ghost Walk. This year we're going to do it a little differently. Instead of doing tours every weekend, going to do them on the first and third weekends of the month. I need a little bit of a break occasionally. But I've also written 2 more tours that we're adding to our roster.
Yes.
One of them we weren't able to do last year. And
I was so wanting to do that. The one down the Cuyahoga River down the flats, that's the one I want to go with.
It's Spectres and Slaughter on the Cuyahoga. That's the Ghastly Flats tour. We weren't able to do it last year because the Center Street Bridge was about a year behind schedule for reopening. So we would have had to have abruptly ended the tour at the river. There was no way across at that hour. There was a water taxi, but it stops running, I believe, at 8 o'clock, so we'd have to pay an extra fee. So we will be able to do Spectres and Slaughter on the Cuyahoga. Now that one's not just strictly a ghost tour. That one is also true crime. So that one will be in there because there were a number of murders that happened on there. Yes, there was one victim of the Cleveland torso killer that did wash up, or might have been dumped, but we think more than anything probably washed up at one point over there. That will be touched on, but there are so many more along the river, a little bit far, including the first reported murder in Cleveland. Yeah, witnessed by the son of Major Lorenzo Carter. His son Alonzo witnessed it, and many years later wrote on it, so that story will be shared. I did cover it in Buried Beneath Cleveland, because Monopsy's burial site, the mouth of the Rocky River, the island there, so that story is mentioned in that book. But that will be shared, a number of the lesser known ones. And that one, just like the Friday night tour along Pearl, West 25th up there, will stop also at 3 select taverns along the way. So we'll probably be starting off over at the Harbor Inn, is going to be probably the starting point.
It's a good place to start.
It is. So it's a great place, just like Friday nights right now. When we did last year, we were starting off over at Forest City. Yep. That's great. People can quote pregame, if they want to have
a nice parking lot in the back, so you can park your car.
That's right. Yeah.
And when you're done with the tour, there might be a hearse there to pick you up and take you back for a nominal fee.
Yeah, so that's the thing about the Friday night tours.
Shameless plug. I
really wanted to mention that. So yes, the Friday night tours, the Ghosts of Old Pearl Street and Spectres and Slaughter on the Cuyahoga River. They do not conclude at the starting point. The one on Pearl starts over actually over in Columbus at Forest City, and it ends close to Kearney's Bar, about 3/4 of a mile to the north. The one on the flats, it's going to start over on the west bank. It ends on the east bank. So if you're parked at the starting point, you can either call an Uber or Lyft, or you can go back in style, and you can reach out to Eric here. And
that's it. I'll be waiting.
Grave Expectations will be available if you want to ride back to the starting point for a modest fee in one of his hearses. So, which he's got seating available in, and wow, this is especially Boris. Boris is, crown jewel.
Boris is the crown jewel of the fleet. Yes.
Now we didn't take Boris here today. We came
we came in Morticia.
Okay, that's Morticia. Okay.
Yeah, it's snowing outside. Morticia's my winter beater.
This guy pulls up in my driveway. I get neighbors freaking out.
Yeah.
Thinking I died or something. They're just going to send a hearse to the house.
There's a hearse in the driveway.
Right.
What the heck?
Michael is dead.
It's like, whoa. It's it's awesome. So yeah, you go back. He's got some wonderful lighting running throughout. He's got wonderful music. It's great. So it's an awesome experience. Really, it is. I highly encourage.
I aim to please.
I come back every Friday. I ride with him back. So and yes, I also him too. So I'm not gonna stiff my friends. So so even I do it. So I'll put my money where my mouth is and say yes if you get a chance. Ride back with Eric. It's great.
I pulled up at the Winchester.
Mm-hmm.
Last Reverend Morbid gig, and this souped up hearse comes pulling up, and everyone's just looking, sitting out in the patio, and they see me step out as Reverend Morbid. This one guy was just like, "I'm not surprised." Like Reverend Morbid coming out of a hearse. I'm like, I told Erica that was just too awesome.
Well, what's also fun is occasionally over. Okay, so I'm the vice president currently of the Monroe Street Cemetery Foundation. If you're not familiar, it's a 501c3 nonprofit that focuses on the beautification, restoration, and historic preservation of Monroe Street Cemetery on Cleveland's west side. It's currently Cleveland's largest, or Ohio City's largest green space, and it's an ARBNet accredited arboretum. They just got that in the last couple of years. This is fantastic. So occasionally we'll do a fundraiser or whatnot over at the cemetery. Like the first year did a lantern guided, it was in the afternoon, but a lantern guided style walk of spooky stories from the cemetery. Last year we did Voices from Beyond the Grave right around October, where we had about 9 or 10 costumed actors scattered throughout the cemetery, dressed in period costume as people who were buried there, sharing their stories, and there were all stories
of
very neat, creepy or spooky, or so like one was a kid who got shot in the back by a guy who his friends were raiding the guy's garden. The guy killed a kid for raiding his garden. He actually got his. He was shot he enlisted with the Union Army, and he was killed in action too.
Maybe the ghost.
The guy was found guilty of murder, and I think he served all of like 5 days for murder. Oh. Well, yeah, he was pardoned by the governor, who was a friend of his. So it depends on who your friends are. I played Jonathan Castle, whose son became the mayor of Ohio City. Well, Jonathan Castle died in the 1830s from cholera. And so I talked about how some people were prematurely buried who died. They didn't actually die. They were just in a comatose state. So I shared that story. We had one woman who was beaten to death by her husband. We had another fella who was killed over at the Cave of Apparitions, the old Mac Brewing Company. So we had a number of stories. So that was great. But at all the events, it's so great. Like because events like that, we encourage kids. Hey, it's around Halloween. Wear your Halloween masks. It's great. Dress up. And they didn't. Here's Eric pulling in with
Vincent.
And we're like, yeah, park over here and park down the.
I'm like, really? I can pull into the cemetery.
People can pull in, and they could see his Cleveland Monster Clubs too. It's great. Yeah, they get to see the hearse, up close. So that's pretty fun too. So this year we're doing something similar over at Monroe Street Cemetery. It's not going to be spooky stories oriented. It's going to be more of a historic. It's for Cleveland History Days. It's going to be on the last Sunday of June, the 30th. I had to remember the little rhyme. June 30th, in the afternoon from 1 to 4, we're going to do the same thing, but it's going to be more patriots, abolitionists, prominent figures, movers and shakers of the community. And that's because we're saving the end of the season, late September, Zombie Run.
Oh,
we're doing
nice.
a 5K.
You're doing the 5K through there.
5K.
All right.
So we're setting it up right now. We're getting all set. So we've already got some stuff up. And then we have our Regrow Monroe. I don't know when this is going to air, but on April 12th, Friday night at Forest City Brewing Company, people can go online and they can go to MSCF 1841. It's our website. For the Monroe Street Cemetery Foundation, and they can find how to get tickets to the Regrow Monroe, and that's our big annual fundraiser.
It's the fundraiser,
Yeah,
and it's going to be at Forest City Brewing.
It'll be Forest City Brewing on that Friday from 6 to 10. We got Pat Shepard playing from 7 to 9.
I mean, I might have to bring a hearse to park out front for
you
that.
might. You'd have to get there early though to park.
I mean,
it,
I think I can swing it.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you can park right there, there's a perfect spot right there, right in front. If you can park right there, that would be great.
Yeah.
Get down there early though, so because otherwise we gotta park over at the church, and we're gonna park all around because we're expecting over 100 people.
Well, I mean, what better place to have a hearse than a foundation for the cemetery event?
The big fundraiser.
It's a big fundraiser.
So if you're listening to us and you're looking for something to do on Friday, April 12th, and we're gonna have live music, there'll be food. We're covering your first beer, of course, and then there's raffles. So, and I'll be donating some passes to some of my tours. Yeah, Strange and Spooky tours. So we will have some passes available.
You know what? I might even throw in a ride or two for your strange when you do your strange. Whoever wins the Strange and Spooky tour, then we'll win a ride in a hearse.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
It'll be a package deal.
Perfect. That would be perfect.
And you can buy raffle tickets for that.
Yeah. So we'll have those available for that. So that'll be So that's coming up. That's everything we're doing with the Monroe Street Cemetery Foundation. But it was always great having the hearse over there in the cemetery for those events. Eric will be available to take people back to their starting for the Friday tours. Now the Saturday tours we end, if not in the exact same place, very close to where we started. So while downtown Cleveland tour the Ghost Walk is going to be starting and ending on Public Square as it did last year, and again once a month because we're doing 4 tours per month. So you get to select if you don't want to go in May or if you don't want to go in June, you can go on the downtown Ghost Walk in July. Or August or September. October we'll be doing every weekend.
Nice.
Except for the Saturday before Halloween.
I was going to say, man, you got to watch it around Halloween time, man.
Yeah,
I love scaring the kitties.
Friday is good. Friday was fun. Saturday, I realized I had very little attendance on that Saturday, and I decided there was something else I want to do besides, and I realized everybody's at Halloween parties. That's what they're doing. So, and I'm going to do the same. So for Halloween, the Saturday before Halloween, there will not be a tour that evening because I'm probably going to go to Mask of the Red Death down at Akron Civic Theater, which is a fun event if you guys get a chance.
Cool. Oh, so you're going to Akron Civic Theater?
Akron Civic, yeah.
My friend Neil, he's managing that right now.
Oh, it's a great place. Yeah. So I love the fact that I got the opportunity to write about it in Ghosts and Legends of Northern Ohio in regard to the haunting of the Akron Civic.
I was gonna try to squeeze that into this whole conversation. I know you're a historian.
Yeah.
People want to go, do you believe in ghosts? Right. Have you had any experiences?
I did have a few, and I do talk about a few that I had at the Palace and also at Gray's Armory. So, as I mentioned, my dad and mom, they were really big into pipe organ. My dad had a company for many years, Krejci and Sons, mostly church organs, but he even has a theater organ. Right now, a friend has got it, but he not only did he build them, and tune them, but he also played regularly, and he would give concerts in the area, occasionally at Gray's Armory. They've got a theater organ down there as well.
Nice. And
he used to work on that, and they were at the time members of the Western Reserve Theater Organ Society. And they have offices in the armory in the back. And I won't go into it, but I was suspended from school for something, and I was under lock and key for a year. I was supposed to be grounded for a year. So I had to go with my parents.
Dang, what'd you do in school? You get grounded for a year.
I won't go into it. They ultimately, though, they shortened my sentence when I got bit by my cat and ended up in the hospital with blood poisoning for a week.
Boy.
After I got home, they said, okay, fine, you're summer, go outside. They were sick of seeing me hanging around the house. Anyway, I was up in the office, and I remember I was looking out the back window, and what's out the back window? Erie Street Cemetery. So I'm sitting up there with my sketch pad, and I'm drawing it from the window upstairs, and I heard somebody coming down the hall and open the door and slam. I thought it was my mom coming back to yell at me about something else, and I turned around and yelled, "What?" And there's nobody there. So I'm like, and they were in the chamber there, because I didn't think about it. I could still hear the organ going. They were tuning at the time, and they've got a separate console up in the chamber, so you don't have to go down to the main console. They had a different console, like a mini console up there, so one could be in the chamber, the other one's there, and they're still going. And I'm like, there's only the two of them here. So I looked, and yeah, nobody there.
That's crazy.
So yeah, I did have my own experiences, of course, at the castle. When you live in a place long enough like that, then yeah, you do. I was always a bit of a skeptic, even after having experienced it as a kid. Like, I just figured there's probably some explanation for some of it, but no, not really. There isn't, I guess. And more time I spent actually at the castle, more time I started to open up to, okay, there's something else going on here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, I am more than anything, though. I am a historian. I like to look at the site history, but I also love finding the historic ghost stories that go back over 100 years ago, and that was my most recent book, Lost Ghost Stories of Cleveland. These are ghost stories. I found over 30 from just Cuyahoga County alone that haven't been written on in over 100 years. No newspaper articles, no books, no websites, no news stories, no magazines, nothing. They've been completely... Some of these were headline news in the 1800s, like ran for, well, in one case for a couple of years, 1861 to 1863. We think of Erie Street Cemetery. We think of it being haunted. What's the first story we hear? Jocko saw it.
Jocko, yeah.
Erie Street Ghost.
Yeah.
The cemetery was being haunted by a colossal figure that stood between 10 and 25 feet tall, shrouded in white with a pointy hat. In some cases it had antlers. Sometimes it appeared as a short, squat, dark figure with the head of an ox and a blue glow coming from its mouth and its nostrils, and it would charge at people. It was reportedly...
That's, whew.
Yeah, so this thing was terrifying.
I'm going to have to cut you off. Now, we're in the cemetery right now. It's getting to be about dusk. Mm-hmm. And imagine him telling you this story. even though there's a Guardians game going on across the street, I tell you what,
they're over there.
Yeah,
we're by ourselves here.
Yeah, and you're in the middle of the cemetery and it's dusk. It's just the sun's set. It's starting to get dark, and he's telling this story. And it's like, man, you could just look across the street and just imagine it. Just imagine that thing coming at you.
This giant, sheeted figure charging at you through the cemetery. Believe it or not, it is attributed with one death. There was a little girl who lived over on Ohio Street, which is, it's Carnegie Avenue right there around the corner. She and some friends were walking back from a party, and this thing loomed up behind them. It scared the hell out of them. And this one girl dropped and had a seizure, and she died the next day. Now I checked the papers and I couldn't find that, but it doesn't mean that she was. That's if she was buried at a public cemetery. If she died at and was buried at a Catholic cemetery, those records aren't available online. You have to go to the cemetery and you have to figure out. They did not put her name in there, so I didn't have that either. I just had her age and that she lived on Ohio Street. That's all I had. But the papers were very adamant that she had since passed. This went on for 2 years, and this was headline news. How the hell did this get missed for so long?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I've got a lot more stories that I never... That's on the Downtown Cleveland Ghost Walk.
Yeah.
I have more that I found since putting out that book in Cuyahoga County, but I've got so many more here in Northeast Ohio that I already am working on. It's already in the works. There's a follow-up coming. This book,
Part 2.
Yeah, it's Northeast Ohio. This book has been out since September,
right.
And just in the short 6 months that it's been out, it's enjoying a lot of success. I'm really happy about that.
I'm telling you, I bought it when it first came out, and I kind of stopped because I got busy with other things.
Yeah.
And I'm still only halfway through the damn book. Because now I've got another book that I started. Well, I didn't even start reading it because I didn't finish yours yet. So I'm the type of person, I got to finish a book before I start another one. And I bought another book about the Haunted Medina.
Oh, yeah.
And I went and met the author and got his signature and all that. I haven't even opened a page on it yet. And it's like, I got to finish Bill's book first.
But when I tell people with most of my books, a great example would be like Ghosts and Legends of Northern Ohio or Buried Beneath Cleveland, the Lost Cemeteries book. Find what interests you first. Go through the table of contents. I have Buried Beneath Ghosts and Legends of Northern Ohio. Excuse me. I have that they're broken up into subjects. Railroad ghosts, canal ghosts, witches' graves. I start off with Helltown. I end with Horror Orphanage. Find what you want to read up on. You don't have to read the whole book in order. Buried Beneath Cleveland, it's broken up. I broke the county into 4 parts. Yep. Find what's closest to you. Read it that way and go out and explore because it's also part trailcraft.
Yes. So that's the best part about your books. On most of them, you give the exact coordinates. If you want to look it up on GPS, you got the longitude and latitude, and you also write in there whether or not it's public land or private property. Yeah. So that's very important when you're going to these places. It's very important to know whether or not you're allowed to be there. You're not trespassing, and whether or not it's a hazardous area to be walking into.
Yeah, there are some that are public, accessible, fully accessible, but with caution. But you got to be careful because 1, the ground is uneven, and 2, there's no fence. And if you're bumbling around in the dark, you could fall a good 90 feet down to the river. It's because it's a sheer cliff that goes right down, shell cliff. So yeah, access them with caution. But again, like with that book though, just like Ghosts and Legends of Northern Ohio, find something that's close to you. You don't have to read the book in order. Find something close to you. Find something that interests you, and then go back. But some of them I suggest that you read from front to end, like the Castle book.
Yes,
you want to read that one.
Well, because that comes in. It's chronological. So
as is. Lost Ghost Stories of Cleveland.
Yes.
I went in chronological order on that one. So I might refer back to the previous story or to a story that happened a couple of months earlier while telling a later story. So that one, I would also suggest read that one probably in order as well. So
I'm wired that way. I usually read them front to back anyways.
Yeah. Haunted Puddin' Bay I have set up as if you're paying a visit to the island, so it begins with checking in, and then sightseeing, and then an evening out. So all the places that you can go. That's how I have that one so set up so that you can do that. And one of them is a place that doesn't even, I mean the building's still there, but the bar's not open. That's a Skyway, which is out by the airport. So I say if we could take a travel back in time, we would see and we would be able to visit. And I did go there a few times, and it was pretty cool. And the story of the Skyway, which the building is still there.
Well, and the lighthouse is still there.
And the lighthouse is still there.
I don't think that's going anywhere.
No, that's
that's a historical.
Yeah,
that's a historical landmark.
So thank goodness for that. So, but then there will be new tours this year. After that, and take a ride on Friday evenings with Eric. Saturday, the new tour for Saturday. You guys are gonna love this. Terrors of Tremont.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. So there will be a Tremont tour. I already walked the route, and this is like the one for the flats. It's not all ghost stories. Terrors of Tremont. It's ghosts. It's true crime. And it's tragedies, so you're gonna have a nice cluster here. So if you're not just if your interests exceed beyond ghosts and hauntings, you will have some. But we also have some true crime. We have some murders. One of them was one of the most horrific that I've ever come across, and I do talk about that when I do the downtown Cleveland Ghost Walk. But we're actually going to be visiting that. Yes, the house is still standing. I did do when I was with Cleveland Paranormal Society. I did write a ghost walk for them that went through Ohio City, and that walked through some residential neighborhoods. But we were stopping, with the exception of the castle and what had been the county archives office. Everything else is pretty much commercial because we're outside Johnny Mango's or we're outside the Harp or
the cemetery. Went to Monroe Cemetery.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we stopped at Monroe Street Cemetery. So that was, but we're in the cemetery when I'm sharing those stories. So
there's houses across the street.
There are, yeah. Oh wow, yeah, and I found one story, and this was a little too brutal to share at the Spooky Stories or the Voices from Beyond the Grave. I had it ready on hand, but I'm like, no, that's too rough. Because we're going to have, it's supposed to be family friendly, not too scary, not too grim, if you will, or grisly, and this one was. And it's a horrible murder, and it actually happened right across the street from Monroe Street Cemetery.
No.
Yeah, so there was a fella. You guys want to hear it really?
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it. Everybody wants to hear it.
Because I'm sure I'm not going to actually work this into anything we're going to do at Monroe. This is just a little too gruesome. There was a fella, him and his wife, they lived across the street in one of the houses right across from Monroe Street Cemetery. His sister-in-law, his wife's sister, she took ill and moved in with them. And apparently he had an affair with her that resulted in her getting pregnant. Now, she hid the pregnancy from her sister. Sister didn't know. She was mostly bedridden throughout this period. She delivered the child, a boy, while her sister was away at the market, and they hid the birth as well. He took the child outside. The child was born alive, and he took the boy outside, and he threw him to the pigs.
What?
Yeah. And the neighbors complained to him, "There's what's the matter with your pigs? Why are they making that noise?" It was the baby screaming. And he realized that the pigs were not getting rid of the child. He thought that the pigs would eat kill the kid, and he'd be able to get rid of the kid that way. And they weren't. They were leaving him alone. So he took the baby and pulled him out of the pig pen, and he sliced his throat, and then he shoved the body down the toilet outside the outhouse, down through the hole. And a couple days later, the smell was so horrendous that the neighbors complained, called the authorities. They went over and they checked it out, and that's when they found the body. And they arrested this man for murder. This child was obviously born alive. You don't stab or slice the throat of a dead, stillborn child. And he was convicted of murder. He was sent to jail, and he did a number of years. They let him out, paroled him, when he contracted consumption, pulmonary tuberculosis. So he was contagious and terminal. And they sent him home, and he died shortly thereafter. And they buried him across the street at Monroe Street Cemetery. I'm assuming the child is probably buried over there somewhere also. But this guy is over there. So there's a murderer buried amongst those in the cemetery who murdered his own newborn son. Again, I said probably too gruesome to put on a...
Yeah, I mean,
pretty crazy.
But and the man's grave is not marked, but I know where he's buried, and thought maybe we can have this guy telling a story, but that would have been a little traumatic.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of kids that usually show
dressed up in Halloween costumes and all that.
Right, yeah.
Well, you really want to get scared?
Here we go.
And if I want, I can start a story and say, "Yeah, old man so and such is gonna
come out of the grave and cut you from ear to ear,
throw you to the pigs, or shove you down the toilet." So yeah, you can create your own monster story from that one. I mean, the guy was he was a real monster. That
is pretty gruesome for the day back then. Yeah.
So that was pretty horrible.
I'm surprised they let him out of prison.
Oh, they let him go home to die. They don't want to. I guess they didn't want to deal with him being contagious.
Yeah, I would have locked him in a cell, put him in a Ziploc bag or whatever.
Yeah. So it's some wild stories out of that place, but yeah, that was one that was, and yeah, the house is still standing. It's right across the street. So I wouldn't sit there and say, and that's the house over there.
That's
so
the house where the guy's
just like the Maggie Thompson story on, I'm not going to point out the house. It is a private residence. Yeah. It is still standing, but I'll say in this vicinity is the house where she was found. I know which one it is, but I'm not going to tell anybody. I'll be in the area. But otherwise, after that, we're walking through residential areas, and we'll talk. Another one we're talking about is empty, but there'll be like the Bible Press building will be one of our stops. There's some awesome connections.
I'm telling you, we're probably gonna wrap this up. It's getting close to dinner time for everybody here downstairs. But if you guys have any want to see the list of books and see what Bill Krejci's doing, go to his website. We'll have that listed in the YouTube link, which we'll put that out next week. So go to our YouTube page.
Check my regular, my personal site, but also, I got Strange and Spooky.
Strange and Spooky,
Strange
check.
and Spooky, the letter N in there, not the ampersand, not and, Strange and Spooky.
Yep.
And that's got all the tours, and I'm going to, I might even eventually just move all my stuff over to that anyway. I don't know, I'm kind of rattling my...
On that note,
I really appreciate you coming out.
We appreciate you coming
sharing
out.
all your experiences. And
I love the
invitation.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I love being here. Thanks for having me on. Thank you so much.
And glad we could shamelessly plug your industry there.
And yours too.
We do it all together, all the time, every episode.
Like someone walking by with a little pop-up.
Little pile of
it'll scroll the QR code.
It'll scroll across the bottom of the screen.
Well, I'm shamelessly wearing one of my own shirts.
Mine too. Strange and Spooky.
Well, and
you got your hearse drivers.
Actually, this is Dead Sled.
Oh, wow, that's great.
We're just plugging everybody.
We're plugging everybody.
Yeah, we don't care. It's all about the spookiness. So.
That's it.
All right. Well, I am Michael, aka Rev.
Mopar Monster. Eric.
And you have been at Cleveland Monster Club Podcast. Thanks for stopping in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Stay creepy.